Hello, I'm Kerry Shamblin, and I practice Jyotish, also known as Vedic Astrology. I have been offering a monthly forecast since 1999 where I track how the planets are moving through the sky and how they may be affecting our life on Earth. I also work directly with others through counseling, teaching, and mentoring. Welcome, this is Kerry with the October 2025 monthly Vedic Astrology forecast. Let's start with a summary from the 9 planets. First, the Sun. Our guiding day star passes through Virgo during the first half of October, moving into debilitation in Libra on October 17th. Moving away from the eclipse axis, we may collectively feel a lack of clarity about what is right or true. Fall back on intuitive information and try to find that trust. Let's remember that the Sun's sign, Leo, is hosting our intuition coach, Ketu, through 2026. Attend to health and relationships during October. The Moon gets full in the sign of Pisces on October 6th, joining retrograde Saturn, which could spin out of control, sending emotions and public opinion out of bounds. The Moon wanes through mid-October, joining the Sun, Mars, and Mercury in Libra for the new moon on October 21st, bringing a dynamic pivot. Ready or not? Mars travels through Libra during October, joining Sun and Mercury to stir intensity in relationships, contracts, and decisions. Sparks may fly, but progress comes with restraint. On October 27th, Mars moves into his own sign of Scorpio, strengthening resolve and focus. Channel power into purposeful action, not conflict. Mercury moves quickly through Libra, October 3rd through the 24th, sharpening intellect, yet provoking arguments as he pairs with Mars. Use this energy for design and problem solving rather than disputes. Entering Scorpio on October 24th, Mercury prepares for retrograde. Track details carefully now to avoid cleanup later. Jupiter. On October 18th, Jupiter enters exaltation in Cancer, offering a glimpse of renewal, wisdom, and faith. His gaze steadies Saturn and Mars, bringing some clarity to turbulence. Though retrograde begins in mid-November, this brief transit restores inspiration and points toward new foundations. Venus begins October conjoined with Ketu in Leo, stirring sudden turns in love, money, and creative flow. By October 9th, Venus shifts to Virgo, her sign of debilitation, spotlighting accountability in relationships and choices. Saturn's aspect and an exchange with Mercury add structure and diplomacy, reminding us to create with care. Retrograde Saturn continues in Pisces, coloring the October 6th full moon with weight and unrest. Lessons lie in patience and grounded process. By late October, Jupiter's aspect from Cancer offers perspective, helping to shift confusion toward steady clarity. Rahu in Aquarius pushes collective change and innovation, but also fuels anxiety and overreach via aspect, especially in Libra, where themes of agreement and balance live. With Jupiter's move into Cancer mid-month, Rahu loses some grip, easing tensions. Stay alert to inflated expectations. Ketu in Leo conjoins Venus during the first week of October, breaking attachments that have become paralyzing in matters of love and creativity. Obstacles may redirect energy, revealing new channels. Through the month, Ketu continues his subtle teaching. Trust intuition, simplify, and clear ego-driven clutter. For more in-depth assessment of the planets, please keep listening to the full planetary forecast. Mercury transits Libra, October 3rd through the 24th. Mercury exits his own sign of Virgo on October 3rd, entering Libra for a quick transit through the friendly sign. While the sign is friendly and the growth potential being stirred into the air signs presently by a compound aspect coming from Jupiter and Rahu is very exciting, we could begin to feel some palpable tension. Mars is currently moving through Venus's air sign through October 27th, putting Mars and Mercury into a tighter conjunction as the month of October progresses. This could yield tense negotiations, aggressive communication, tempers flaring, complete loss of decorum, and destructive, impulsive decision-making. Proceed with caution. On a positive note, when Mars and Mercury are in agreement, amazing feats of engineering can be accomplished with efficiency. In order to access this part of the possibility, plan in advance to remain detached, focused, and analytical. Resist emotional decisions, including communication. Stay focused on the task at hand. Venus, the ruler of Libra, will be moving into an exact conjunction with Ketu during the first week of October. This could feel like the water finally hitting the dam, diverting the natural flow of things and causing uncontrollable surges and unpredictable flows as we all confront our individual and collective obstacles and diversions. With diplomatic Venus completely tied up by insurmountable Ketu during this time, we may be confronted with unprecedented situations that require nearly fantasy-level solutions. By October 9th, Venus moves to Virgo, perhaps improving things for Mercury and his encounter with Mars, but leaving a wake of turbulence that could offer frustrating challenges. Bring your whole entire toolkit for October, with a couple of extra tubes of patience. Full moon in Pisces, October 6th. The full moon of October comes on Monday, October 6th, when the moon at 20 degrees Pisces opposes the sun at 20 degrees Virgo. With the sun and moon focused in dual signs, it is almost as if at this moment there are two teams working on very different trajectories, but pulled together by a common direction. This intense harvest moon could also feel like a bad moon rising, as the moon in Pisces, flanked by retrograde Saturn, opposes the sun in Virgo. While this feeling may prevail, check on the data coming from the sign rulers where the sun and moon will be. Sun in Virgo brings Mercury into play, and moon in Pisces brings Jupiter into play. Lessons learned could be the best fruit of this time, allowing you to objectively analyze emotional situations. Jupiter and Mercury are both in occupation of air signs, bringing to mind the brainstorm energy that, when finally applied to a plan or project, could be quite productive. Mars joins Mercury in Libra most of the way through October, and the efficient pair moves together into Scorpio during the last week of October. The full moon will be in the final sign of the zodiac, as well as the final nakshatra, bringing us to integrating and digesting those lessons learned as we move into a new cycle. The retrograde Saturn energy, paired with the emotionally provocative full moon, urges us to keep our feet on the ground with a commitment to the process, which is a small insurance policy against getting swept away in an emotional tide. Venus transits Virgo, October 9th through November 2nd. Venus tells us about connections, relationships, business, politics, little things like that. Venus also inspires us toward creation and beauty. Think the arts, fashion, comfortable homes, clean food, and water. In September, Venus entered into Leo, not her favorite environment due to the heat and focus on individual achievement. Compounding this affront to the graceful flow of Venus is the approach toward Ketu, the headless south node of the moon who puts up walls and invites problem solving. Venus pushes past Ketu during the first week of October, which could turn on a faucet after things have gone dry. Venus loves water and flow. Moving through dry and rocky signs can be a challenge. From October 9th through November 2nd, Venus moves through Mercury's Earth sign of Virgo, which is oddly enough is Venus's sign of debilitation despite the best friend status with Mercury. Venus loves to consume, while it is up to Mercury to digest. Perhaps Venus going through Virgo is tough because we feel the consequences of consuming too much, not enough, or the wrong things. Accountability for actions, especially in the spheres of relationship, business, and politics, could become a theme through October. Saturn aspecting Venus will bring the opportunity for adding structure to creative and business pursuits. The harvest-oriented sign of Virgo keeps us focused on organization and retention of materials and resources that will get us through the winter season. Once Venus makes it to Virgo, despite the debilitated status, we have the opportunity to tap in to the inspirational and enthusiastic energies of both Mercury and Venus, who will be in good dignity with Parivartana status from October 9th through the 24th. Parivartana is an exchange of signs when two planets are occupying each other's sign for a time. This links the two planets and sometimes even smooths out the perceived flaws. This will bring graceful negotiating power to the rather task-oriented combination of Mars and Mercury in Venus's air sign, Libra. Additionally, it brings intelligence and rational decision-making when it comes to those relationship and business negotiations. The Sun transits Libra, October 17th through November 16th. Whichever sign the Sun is transiting, we tend to bring our focus to those matters. It is especially interesting at any given time to notice how the outer planets are aspecting and affecting the Sun from month to month. The first half of October, the Sun will be moving through the latter half of Virgo, joined by Venus about a week before the Sun moves to Libra on October 17th. In the same way that Venus is debilitated in Virgo, the Sun becomes debilitated in Libra. It's been a tough summer for the Sun, first having his Leo transit affected by eclipses, then encountering the gaze of Saturn through Virgo, and next a choppy ride through Libra. During the Sun in Virgo part of October, we may be faced with counting and curbing more than we generally love to do. Saturn's gaze into Virgo and Mercury's rulership keeps us focused on rules, data, and accountability, and right speech. It could be actually a productive time due to Mercury's current drafting with Mars. When the Sun moves to Libra on October 17th, we may feel a shift as well. The debilitation of the Sun in Libra is softened by Mercury's presence and the Parivartana between Venus and Mercury, at least for that first week. Between the time when Mercury leaves Libra and Mars leaves Libra, which is October 24th through the 27th, the Sun and Mars alone will occupy Libra, with none of the buffering care of Venus and Mercury to soften those negotiations. In addition, Jupiter will move into Cancer on October 18th, leaving Rahu alone to influence Libra and what is going on there. Let's keep our eyes on that few-day period. Build in softness and wisdom to cushion any gaps that develop. Between October 27th, when Mars leaves Libra for Scorpio, and November 2nd, when Venus enters Libra, it feels as if the Sun itself becomes vulnerable, alone in debilitation with Rahu's aspect. With Venus, Mars, and Mercury placed in the adjacent signs, this is a call to find your own cushion in the form of friends, preventive action, and problem solving. Jupiter enters Cancer on October 18th. Jupiter, who spends a year on average in each sign, sometimes bounces across the fence from time to time, giving us a preview of what the upcoming transit may bring. Keep an eye on shifts that come around mid-month, when the Sun moves to Libra on October 17th and Jupiter dips into Cancer on October 18th. Jupiter's Cancer sojourn won't last long. By November 11th, having almost reached 1 degree of Cancer, Jupiter takes on an about face and begins a retrograde cycle that will return him to Gemini on December 5th. Just over 3 weeks of Jupiter direct in Cancer, then just over 3 weeks of Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. This will set up a few interesting scenarios. First, the Jupiter and Saturn dance. In December of 2020, Jupiter and Saturn conjoined in Capricorn. Since then, because Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, and then Jupiter went to Pisces but got an aspect of Saturn, we've had Saturn as a dominating influence over Jupiter in the past 5 years. That looks like an increase of pain and suffering with a simultaneous deflation of faith and hope. There have been a couple of brief instances in the past couple of years where Jupiter was free of Saturn's influence, including now. When Jupiter moved to Gemini in mid-May of 2025, it broke up the final hold Saturn gets on Jupiter until they come into opposition in December of 2028 for about 1 year. When Jupiter dips into Cancer, it will be the first time since November 2014, when Saturn entered Scorpio and Jupiter was aspecting from Cancer, that Jupiter has cast an aspect on Saturn. What will this bring? First, interesting that the last time this happened, Jupiter was also exalted in Cancer. Perhaps we dig back to that period of time for clues of what we will want to begin to foster going forward. Second, this is a preview. It could be that Jupiter going into Cancer brings some golden opportunities that aren't quite ready to launch. With Jupiter retrograde beginning November 11th, some of the golden eggs could turn out hollow, but regret not lost potential. Be inspired by how much you wanted it and begin to carve your path toward that goal. Third, as soon as Jupiter enters Cancer, the aspect on Saturn is quite strong. Remember that Saturn entered Pisces in late March 2025 and has been retrograding back toward the early degrees of Pisces. By the end of October, it may feel like the tables have turned, with Jupiter's wisdom rippling toward confused Saturn bobbing about in Pisces. And Mars from Scorpio will flip the script on Rahu in Aquarius, who had been aspecting Mars as he traversed Libra. From Scorpio, Mars sees into Aquarius, bringing a show of organized force against chaotic or unreasonable situations. Jupiter will have a solid aspect on both Mars and Saturn when he enters Cancer. Intend for this to manifest as replacing wisdom and growth where chaos and fear were working. New moon in Libra, October 21st. There is a lot going on with the astrological setup of the new moon in Libra on October 21. New moons are a conjunction of sun and moon, where the moon is between the earth and the sun. With the sun being brighter, it drowns out our view of the moon, as well as causing a compound energy in one given sign during the new moon. That is why it is interesting to follow the rhythm of the new moon and full moon signs as we move through the seasons and years. The names of the months in certain languages coincide with the sign that the full moon inhabits during that time of year. The sun dominates the moon during the new moon. We can't identify the stars behind the sun and moon because of the brilliant light of the sun. With the moon ruling the flow of mental and physical energy, this can reflect in a feeling of needing rest during a new moon. What can be accessed during these points is the solar energy of individual expression and desire. Perhaps the physical and mental drain brings us to a low point where we can reconnect to our right pathways, which are designed to fill and recharge us. Let's track a few things. First, the sun and moon join at 5 degrees Libra in the last quadrant of Chitra Nakshatra. Venus rules Libra and Mars rules Chitra. It is a dynamic, passionate, and creative nakshatra. Next, we have both Mars and Mercury in the late degrees of Libra in Vishaka Nakshatra, which brings Venus and Jupiter influence into this bundle in Libra. Venus is currently in Virgo, Mercury's sign, putting the pair into an exchange of signs for just a few more days. Venus will be in Hasta Nakshatra, ruled by the moon, and further tightening the knot of planets in Virgo and Libra during this new moon moment. Finally, we have the Jupiter factor. Jupiter has just waded into Cancer for a short dip, and Cancer is the moon's territory. It is worth noting that Jupiter is placed in Punarvasu, his own nakshatra, and also that 4 other planets will occupy Jupiter-ruled nakshatras at this time. Saturn and Rahu are both in Purvabhadra, although in different signs, because that is a nakshatra that spans between signs. Mercury and Mars are in Vishaka. So Punarvasu, Purvabhadra, and Vishaka are all ruled by Jupiter. Even Ketu is bundled in here, sitting in the sun sign of Leo within Purva Falguni, which is ruled by Venus. This really feels like a pivotal moment. Knowing that this moment lies ahead, let's focus on keeping the bundle managed, avoiding a knotted up mess. Learn how to tie a slip knot, literally or figuratively. This is Ketu showing us that we can have our cake and eat it too, but not without conditions. Finding the balance, focusing on where to grow, becoming aware of a new direction that still lies in the distance. That may be the dance we find ourselves in come late October. Mercury transits Scorpio October 24th through November 23rd. A few days after the new moon, we begin to feel some movement, with quick-moving Mercury darting out of Venus's castle in the air and into the dank and deep watery environment of Scorpio on October 24th. Mercury pushes a versatile, skillful, and calculating energy that helps us with all of the everyday tasks we face. Mercury will be forging ahead into Scorpio rather quickly, spending a month there and then returning back to Libra, actually, due to a retrograde cycle from November 9th through the 29th. This means that the territory that Mercury will be covering from the new moon on October 21st all the way until November 9th, all of that time will be revisited by Mercury through the end of November. That means during this pivotal bundled energy time, where we may or may not know how to work that slip knot, that we may be forced to scramble, find the money, get creative, dig in, and buckle down. Mistakes will happen. Know that the upcoming retrograde of Mercury will give us a chance to go back and clean up some of the mess due to rough and ready action that's needed right now in the moment. While Mercury is moving forward into Scorpio, despite the continued chaos, let's use our brains, hard drives, and archives to keep track of facts, numbers, and data. When that retrograde sets in on November 9th, we may feel a sudden disconnect from information and communication. Combine down-to-earth observation of what is going on around you with your own intuitive perceptions. Mercury in Scorpio is great for this kind of study. Mars transits Scorpio, October 27th through December 8th. A few days after Mercury races ahead into Scorpio, Mars follows steadily for an extended stay. Mars is the planet of power, strength, courage, and force. Scorpio is Mars's own territory, co-ruled by silent Ketu. The pivotal moment of October 21st will inform Mars's mission through Scorpio, which stretches from October 27th through December 8th. Just after Mars moves into Scorpio, during the last days of October and into November, we have a distinct structure that sets up in the early degrees of all the water signs. Conducting this will be Jupiter in Cancer, who casts an aspect into both of the other water signs. Mars in the early degrees of Scorpio will feel this Jupiter gaze, as well as retrograde Saturn, who has weighted back to the early degrees of Pisces. This will be a rather short span of time between the last few days of October and through November, but after the retrograde cycle of Jupiter initiates on November 11th, we may feel some reversals and consequences that begin to walk us back, giving us a chance to course correct, restructure, investigate, and locate the proper resources. Between November 11th, when Jupiter takes retrograde motion, and November 27th, when Saturn takes direct motion, we will have a plethora of retrograde energy causing big waves in the early sector of each water sign. Retrograde Jupiter in Cancer, retrograde Mercury with the Sun in Scorpio, and retrograde Saturn churning in the Pisces section of Purva Bhadra Nakshatra combine to cause some very big waves. As we head into November, it looks like we will face navigating deep change and troubled waters. Use this possibility to guide your actions in October. While the threat of unwanted change and instability looms, respond with the creative grace of Venus, the positive intention and wisdom of Jupiter, the well-channeled power and focus of Mars, and the flexibility of inspired intelligence we find in Mercury. November 2025 headlines: Full moon in Aries, November 5th. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, November 9th through the 29th, where Mercury will go from Scorpio back to Libra. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, November 11th through March 11th, 2026. Sun transits Scorpio, November 16th through December 15th. The new moon in Scorpio comes on November 19th, and Saturn will go direct at 1 degree Pisces on November 28th. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. Have yourself a great month. Take care. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you are interested in following my work, look for Kerry Shamblin Astrology on YouTube, Spotify, Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram. My monthly forecast is published in written and audio format on my website, planetaryinfluence.com, where you can join my email list or book a one-on-one session with me. My goal is to light your path toward a joyful and liberated life experience.